Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and today we're playing Take It to the Limit. And you've got Sleuth there driving like into incoming traffic. So incoming and outgoing traffic as well. You've got both sides. And looking at how close he's cutting it, it's probably a little bit beyond the limit for my flavor. But what can you do if you're involved in a high-speed car chase? You're trying to hunt down a criminal. Well, I think you can do better. Don't endanger yourself and others is probably my suspicion. Right, the only thing left to say before we take a look at today's puzzle is thank you so much, obviously, for all your support for allowing me to hit 1,000 subscribers. Now, to celebrate this, there was a community post around having the next live session and solve. And kind of by a landslide, Monday the 9th is the winner. Monday the 9th? Monday the 8th, excuse me. Monday the 8th of January is the winner at 1900 GMT. So I hope to see as many of you there as I possibly can. I haven't quite selected the puzzles yet. Now, Dr. Logic kind of hinted that he may be constructing one as a special occasion, which would be phenomenal, Dr. Logic, if you do. But please, if you don't, that's not something to worry about. Now, I will tell you, though, my thinking, though, is just to make it a little bit more interesting, it may be worthwhile getting a slightly harder puzzle than normal, given it will be almost like a collective solve based on how the last live went. So, do participate. I will need your help. Otherwise, we're not going to solve it. Right. Did I mention that, we've been on a bit of a run around killer cage Sudokus and classic Sudokus? Can you guess what today's puzzle is all about? Yep, that's right. We're talking about killer cages, little killers, and by the looks of this very sparse grid, probably tons of classic Sudoku techniques one more time. Now, this particular puzzle by PDN, so Take It to the Limit by PDN, when PDN uploaded it to Logic Masters Germany, PDN gave it a difficulty rating of 2 stars. The community, however, downvoted it to 1. So I guess it's the perfect blend of difficulty as we ease into slightly more difficult puzzles for the weekend. It's sort of on that 1-2 star border, and I'm really looking forward to solving it. Right, rules. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply, so that means place the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box. Pretty standard. We've got killer cage rules, so digits in a cage must sum to the little number in the upper left and may not repeat in the cage. So, for example, I am standing on this, let's go with this 10. You can see that it's 2 cells with the dashed line around it. If that was a 2, this would have to be an 8 to add up to 10. We also have little killer clues, so that's the numbers outside the grid indicate the sum of the digits on their indicated diagonal. So if you imagine this 31, I mean, they're all, I'm not really going to sort of demonstrate an example, I suspect, but yeah, I'm going to go for it. Imagine that this is 7, 8, and 9. That's already adding up to 24 of the required 31 along this diagonal. That means that we need to have 24, 31, 7 more in here. And that would force 1, 2, and 4 to be placed in this. Now, it is absolutely fine. Let me see if I can recreate this quickly. So if I drop this 8 to a 5, that's 5, 7, 9, that's 21. That allows me a 10 in here. I could still repeat the 5 along this little killer clue. That is not a problem whatsoever. So that's kind of the rules for today from PDN. And only thing to do is to say, well, if you feel like, well, don't drive like a maniac, but if you feel like taking your Sudoku to the limit, link will be in the description down below for you to play along as usual. And with that said, I'm going to restart the clock and see how I get on. Now, I'm going to say the names almost always give you a clue. And a 72 little killer clue can only ever be 7, 8, and 9. Essentially, what we're looking for is 24. Well, right, let's try this again. 72, divide that by 3, you end up with 24. So on average, every one of these boxes, every one of these diagonals in these boxes has to add up to 24. In 3 cells that cannot repeat because they're in the same box can only ever be 7, 8s, and 9s. Now I'm looking at the 22 little killer and thinking that is also quite small. It's not small enough that it's the absolute minimum, but we do have this 7, 8, 9 in the middle. So let's just think about this. Minimum I can make these is 1, 2, 3s. That's 6 each. That's 12. Allowing me a 10 in here with a 7, 8, 9, mind you. So that's 7. That's a 1, 2. These are all 1, 2s, and 3s. So we have a bit of a start. That gives me actually a 5. The 5 for the 6 clue gives me a 2, 4 in here. 6 in 2 cells can only be done in one of 2 ways. 1, 5, which is not available. 2, 4, which gives me a 1, a 2. 1, 2, and 4 gives me a 3, 7 in here. And that's, you always need a low digit and a high digit with a 10 cage. And we've already placed 3 of the 4 low digits. 7, 8, 9, just before I forget, that means that this is 2, 3, or 4 to complete the 11 cage. 1, 2, 3 up here means it's another 7, 8, 9 to complete the 10 cage. And now I'm a little bit stuck. It was a kind of like a flurry of activities, and suddenly I'm like, yeah, I'm not actually sure. So where do I go from here? So I'm kind of, you can see that I'm sort of ignoring the 31 cage, sorry, 31 little killer clue. That's an average of around 5 in 6 cells. And yeah, that's not helpful right now. 15 cage, maybe that does look a little bit restricting, especially since I've got 3. It's almost forcing a 3 in here, I'm going to be saying. If that's a 7 and that's a 7, that's a minimum of 14, and then I have 3 cells to make up 1. So that's clearly the 3, that's clearly the 7. Maybe we can push this a bit further before we get stuck. That's not the 7. Right, we've got 12 between these cells. Let's have a think about those. So minimum is 7, that's 10, 5 between these. So I've got 1 degree of freedom. Because essentially the minimum I can make this is 3, 1 and 2. Minimum I can make this is 1. So that's already 4 of the 5. I can add another degree of freedom by essentially having 1, 2, 3 as an option there, 1 and 2 as an option here. And 9 is clearly not an option anymore. If I made that a 9, that would be a 12, and then I have 3 cells that all have to be 1, including the 2 in the same cage, so that's not going to work. Where do I take this next is the question. I mean, I can see these are 6, 8, 9s, just to complete row 4. It's not very helpful. And I can see these are 3, 4, 6s. Again, not very helpful. So kind of the thing there's a few things that are catching my attention. I think the 15 cage is the most interesting one right now. 14 could also be interesting. Because there's only 2 ways of doing it. Now, the reason the 15 is interesting is obviously we've already written the 2 and 4 in here. 15 in 3 cells. Goodness, it's easier than this. 7s. Where does 7 go in box 4? It's in here. I need to get to an 8. That's the remainder. Well, 8. Well, 1 7 is not available. I've written the 7. 2 5 is not available. Sorry, 2 6 is not available. That can only be 3 and 5. That's not 3. I mean, 3 and 7 are definitely now in here. 3 is in here. What else do I know? I know 5 is in one of these 2 cells. Essentially, what I have in here is a 4, 6, an 8, 9, and a 1. So one of these cells in here is a 1, making this a 2, removing the degree of freedom, if you remember, on that 15, little killer clue, forcing this to be a 7, that's going to be a 4. These have to be the minimums now. No 3s. I mean, that 2 gives me the 1, the 2. That's not a 2, therefore that's not an 8. That 7 continues to do some more work. That's now an 8-9 pair. That's not a 1. Can I take this further at this point? No. Okay. Right. Let's just carry on. 7s, I mean, they're still doing more work for us. Is in one of 2 cells. Doesn't help us with this 14 cage, which I did say is interesting, and then I just ignored and moved on. So I will come back to it, I promise. I just want to see if I've got everything else first. 2, for example, is forced in here, just Sudoku, which gives me a 1, loses these 1s, loses this 1, that 2 gives me the 3. I don't know why I didn't see that. And the 2 as well. Is the 3 interesting? Yes, it is. Places a 3, no, here. Which gives me a 1 and 9. Not a 1 anymore. Not a 9 anymore. 1 is in one of these 2 cells in here with 2 of 6, 8, and 9. So essentially, I have in here 5 with a 1 of the 6, 8, and 9s. I'm going to say this can't be 6. Can it? No, I mean, I could do 4 and 5 in here, surely. 3, 6 pair, and then 8, 9. So yeah, there's more options in here. 4, no. What am I not seeing? There's clearly something I'm not seeing. Right. 1. Where does it go in box 3? It's in here. That's not a 1. That's a 1. Now I've got 4, 6, and an 8, 9. And I sort of know the order. I know that this is not the 8, 9. The reason I know this is I haven't really talked about the 14 cages. This is either 5, 9 or 6, 8. Now, what's interesting between these 2 samples is essentially it creates a virtual 8, 9 pair between the 14 cage and the cell at the top. So that can't be the 8, 9. That is the 8, 9. That's the 4, 6. Now, what more can I do about this? Essentially, that's a triplet. I need 4 in this. Oh, no, that's not a triplet. That's a 4. That's a 4, 6. That's an 8, 9. No. Ignore everything I was just about to say. That's not a triplet. Come on, Sleuth. Can this be 6, 8? I don't see a problem. That would be 4. That would be 9. That would be 8. That would be 9. Yeah, I'm not seeing the challenge here. This 2 gives me a 3, a 2, which gives me a 4, a 2. 2's looking into this cage now, sorry, this box. Where does 2 go? Inside the 7 cage, where this has to be a 2, 5 pair. That's not 5, that's not 3, that's just a 7. That's not a 7. These are not 7s, this is a 3, 5 pair. Not really removing options here. Almost, I can almost, with the 1, 9, I am forced to place 1 and 9 between these cells. And I think, where can 1 go? Can only be in here. And then one of these 2 cells is definitely a 9. And then up there is a 6, 8 with a 4. That's the 4. That's the 6, 8. I was going to say 5, I mean, tons of options, but I've got 5 and 7 in here. That 7 tells me that's the 7. And essentially I've got 5, 6, and 8 with a definite 5. How am I not resolving these 6, 8, 9s? What am I missing? That's not a 7 either. That is the 7. Not exactly helping me with these 7s. I've used the 15, I've used the 22, I've used the 72. It still feels premature Right, hang on. 9 gives me an 8, gives me a 9, which gives me 5 and 9, which gives me nothing. And that's 4, 6. That's not a 4. That's the 6. That's the 4. Which gives me a 6 in here. Not a 6 there. That's a 3, 4 pair. Still doesn't help me with my 5, 6, 8, 9 problem, does it? But this 9 does. That's an 8. That's a 9. That's an 8. These are not 8s. That's a 6, 9. So I've got 5, 6, 9 now. Getting there. Got another 6, 9 with something, an 8. Okay. We'll come back to this. I'd say one of these has to be a 9. Either can still be 5, 9 pair, not resolved. Actually, this is now a 4, 7 pair. All right, come on, Sleuth. That was it. That's 6, 8. That's 9, 9. I can write this. Therefore, that's definitely the 5. That's definitely the 6. That's now the 6. That's got to be the 9. That's got to be the 8. These are not 8s. That's a 5, 6 pair. What are these? 8, 9, I'm going to say. Looks like it. Yep. I know the order because of this 9. That's a 9. That's an 8. Therefore, that's an 8. Well, I mean, I already knew that was an 8 because of this 9. Made it seem like such a huge revelation when it wasn't. And I mean, I may as well use the 31 clause. Just about to say we're basically down to Sudoku at this point, but almost. That's a 5. What are these two cells? We need a 3. Don't know where that is yet. And a 5. We do know where this is. That's the 5. That's the 3. Shame that 3 isn't here. Doesn't help me with the 3, 4 pair. In here, I need a 4. An 8 and a 9. Pretty spread out, so not helpful. No 9s there, no 8s there. These are 7 and 6. Also not known. Interesting. Right. This will probably help. What do we know? We have an 8, a 6, a 3. That's 17. Which means I need 14 between these 3 cells. If that was an 8, I would need a 6 with these cells. That's not going to work. So that's got to be the 4. That gives me a 9 and 8. That's now 10, 21. I need 10 between these 2 cells. The only way to do that would be 7 and 3. That's 3. That's 7. I can type. 6. 4 gives me the 3, the 4, the 5. I really can type. 6 and 5. Right. And now we are down to Sudoku. Well, 9, 5, 9, 4 and 7, 6 and 8. Yep, 8 and no, 6 and 8 is done. And then let's just see if we can finish this now. We've got in here 1 and 7. No, 1 and 3. That 3 tells me that's the 3. That's the 1. I need 4 and 6 in here. Not resolved, mind you. Right, what do we know? 1, not 2, 3s. Not 4s yet. Well, 4s, yeah, not 4s. We've got 2 cells in here, 4 and 9. That 9 tells me that's the 9, that's the 4. That will give me the 6, the 4, the 7, and the 4. Let's see if we can, yeah, that's a 5. So that's the 2, that's the 5, that's the 2. And we can just, it's a smooth journey home from here. Presumably that's the 6. I need 7 and 8. That's the 7. I've not made any mistakes. That's the 8 and a solution to today's puzzle. So, interesting. So I think it's probably just at this point, having done a lot of, well, not a lot of, a run of kind of classic Sudokus with killer cages that made this probably easier than PDN intended. But I'm just thinking it could also be because we've been really led by the nose all along. So, you know, clue in the name, take it to the limit, gives us this little killer. The 22 gives us this, gives us the 7, gives us the 5, gives us the 6, gives us a 3, 7. The 7s, if I was paying attention, I would have spotted the 3, 5, 7 earlier. And then I think I went a bit rogue for a second. Yeah, like I sort of got stuck here for a reasonably long time. I mean, the 15 clue, when did I figure out that 2? Yeah, once you've sort of got the 3, 5, 7, you get the 2, you get all of this diagonal. At that point, you've got the 3s, you get the 3, you get the 1, 9. So yeah, it's essentially PDN has sort of led you along constantly, which is probably why it was more approachable. It's as soon as you solve something, if you just keep taking it a little bit further, it leads you to the next step. So I think that's why it was such a smooth solve. I mean, despite sort of the occasional Sudoku blindness moments that I've had. Hope that you guys enjoyed the puzzle and the video. And it was a nice ease into slightly harder puzzles. I'm really looking forward to a couple of them that I've been planning to do for a while. And see you back for the next one. Bye-bye for now.